Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, and you're listening to Living Better. We talk about like health and productivity. Lately, I've been more in the health kick, so that's what I'm talking more about today. I'm gonna talk about mainly fruits and sugar and fructose and glucose and sucrose and a little bit about that. Actually, let's just start with sort of like the breakdown of like your carbs, okay, or your sugars. Your sugars are gonna generally like fall into one of three categories: there's glucose, fructose, and sucrose. Okay, and essentially like you have glucose and fructose, and when you mix glucose and fructose together, you get sucrose. Okay, so essentially like if you eat something that's made up of a lot of sucrose, that's going to break down and you end up with glucose and fructose in your body. But the most important thing to kind of remember is that glucose can be absorbed by pretty much all the muscles in your body. Okay, so essentially what happens, like every muscle in your body will take the glucose that you eat or you have running in your body and absorb it. Okay, and they can save it for like, they have glucose stores so that way they can save it for like energy later. Okay, and that's going to be an important point later on. Now, fructose can only be metabolized in your liver. Okay, so only your liver can use the fructose. Okay, I mean your liver can use glucose too, but it's the only thing that can handle that, break down that fructose. And fructose is typically found in fruits. Okay, so generally, and basically, the bottom line I'm trying to get at is too much fructose can contribute to something like a fatty liver. I mean, this is what happened, kind of happened to me. Now, does that mean, hey, if you eat too many bananas and apples, you're gonna get a fatty liver? Probably not. Okay, because generally, like an individual whole apple, whole banana, it's a little bit like you're not gonna eat 100 apples in one sitting or 100 bananas in one sitting. Just they're just heartier. They have a lot more fiber, and that fiber is going to make you feel full quicker. So you probably won't overdose on fructose from eating actual whole fruits. Okay, but if you drink like a lot of like fruit juices, they're generally concentrated. Like they take like the juice from those fruits and they also add in a whole lot of other sugar, which or honey, and honey is actually pure fructose. So you got to be careful with like honey intake. Again, doesn't mean honey doesn't have like benefits or isn't like a good thing to eat in moderation, but again, it's not like it's still you still always want to kind of like keep in mind that like hey, only your liver can handle the fructose, so you don't want to overdo it on the fructose to the point where your liver gets backed up, and then that's when your liver starts like piling up the fat and becomes a fatty liver. I mean, that's not the only reason. There's plenty of other reasons, like things that contribute to it. Okay, but again, fructose is one of those things that you just kind of want to like think about. And again, the bottom line is eat your fruits, eat your honey. The main thing to watch out for is like the juice drinks. The things where it has like a lot of where it's just very concentrated. So think of like the orange juices, the cranberry juices, and whatnot. Doesn't mean never have a cup. No, but should it be your daily go-to drinking? Is fruit juice a healthy alternative to soda? No. Okay, and then basically soda is just loaded up with high fructose corn syrup, where you now not only is it fructose, but it's like highly concentrated processed fructose. So you're literally just like, you know, directly overloading your liver. So yeah, don't do that. Okay, so I mean, and again, now if you're on a let's say a keto diet, okay, or a lower carb diet, you're probably going to be eating less fruits in general because fruits are loaded, generally high in carbs. There are some fruits that generally are okay on a keto diet just because the way, like for example, raspberries, because they have things like tannins that basically counteract the insulin spike. So essentially, like, yes, you're eating carbs and whatnot, but you're not going to get the insulin spike that would generally go along with that. And again, the reason why you'd care about the insulin spike is at different levels. Okay, and we might as well just hit that topic up again too while we're here. Again, we care about the insulin spikes at different levels for different reasons. So like if you're just thinking about at the highest level, basically, if you have insulin going through your blood, you are not burning fat. Basically, insulin is signaling your cells that hey, everybody, we got glucose coming in. There's like glucose in the bloodstream, and you guys need to be ready to absorb it. So in that case, your body is not looking to absorb like ketones or energy generated from fat. Okay, so it's not going to necessarily metabolize fat. And again, that's an oversimplification because sometimes, at the same time, it might be using fat for some things and carbs for another. But for the most part, it's going to be using a lot less fat. Because basically what happens, all the cells now have the like receptors to receive those glucose, like those little claw. If you imagine like a vending machine with like little claw to grab a toy, now all these cells have these little claws, these little receptors to kind of grab glucose floating into the bloodstream, which is what you do want. If you have glucose in your bloodstream, you want that glucose to be absorbed. Because if it doesn't get absorbed throughout your body, if your muscles don't absorb it, then eventually your liver is going to probably say like, okay, well, we got all this extra glucose, so let's turn it to fat. Okay, and again, too much fat build up, and again, too much work on your liver then leads to like the liver kind of getting backed up and leading to like fatty liver, then cirrhosis. Cool. Okay, so then a couple like little. So coming from that, so again, if you're worried about weight loss, then you do want to kind of keep your insulin levels low, so that way your body is generally like looking to burn fat. Okay, and that's also why like things like intermittent fasting and keto work so well. Intermittent fasting because you're going to these long breaks of not eating, so that way even if it's just for a few hours, your body switches into that fat burning mode, and you're burning a little fat over time, and you're getting rid of, and your body composition is changing. You may not necessarily like, you may or may not lose weight, like your actual like the number, but the amount of fat you're accumulating probably will change. Or keto, where basically you're keeping your insulin low, so your body's just burning fat all the time, even though you are feeding it. So again, and people are thinking, well, if I eat absolutely no carbs, will my body like starve with no glucose? Your body can turn protein into glucose, so your body won't like just go like no. But of course, you don't necessarily want your protein to be turned into glucose either, because you'd like to build muscle. So you do, again, that's why I think like the magic number you usually hear is like between like 20 to 50 grams of carbs a day if you're on keto. So that way, generally, your body is going to use fat for most things, but you do have like a little like glucose to kind of go throughout the body and prevent the body from like breaking down all your protein, or breaking down the protein you're ingesting. Okay, because it's always going to go through like what is the easiest thing to do first. So like the easiest thing for your body to use is just like to take carbs and break down that glucose, fructose, sucrose. Then I guess then if there's no carbs, then the next thing it'll do is like break in protein that came in, and then if no protein's coming in because you're not eating any meat or eating anything that's high in protein or eating anything at all, then it's going to start breaking down your actual like muscle and breaking down those proteins to turn that into glucose. So you do want to avoid that, because your muscle drives energy burning like at different levels. One, costs energy to kind of maintain your muscle, but also your muscle stores glucose. So the more muscle you have, not only are you going to be burning more calories just at rest, but two, you have more places to store any extra glucose you have that's other than in fat. Okay. And a cool thing you can do is that generally if you flex your muscles, or if you use your muscles in any way, that signals to your muscles that they should be on the ready to receive glucose, or be on the eye out for glucose. So they're more likely to store the glucose in your muscles than, again, as fat. So generally, if you do have like a cheat meal, or you have a day where you eat like a little bit more carbs than you really want to, or a little bit more sugar than you really want to, flex those muscles, go for a walk. That's going to upregulate. Basically your body, you're trying to like store a lot of that like glucose. Okay, and again, the idea is like, whether you're keto or not, you don't want to store too much fat. Again, eating fat's good because fat is super important. But the idea is you don't want to store so much fat that you're causing problems. And really, what it comes down to is just like don't overeat, which is a lot easier said than done, especially if you're living like a first world country, or just have if you're just doing okay, like you basically have enough income to survive in life and then some, overeating is going to be one of the harder things to avoid. Okay, so watch out for that. So regardless of whatever diet you're doing, if you eat too much, you have a problem. But again, you can do certain things that'll avoid a lot of the problems a little bit better. Again, things that can help encourage absorption of any glucose you do have, reducing the amount of glucose intake, so that way you're not having, your body you don't have to do all like this other stuff to kind of get your body to absorb it. There are things like chromium. Chromium will also like sort of like so taking a chromium supplement when you have a cheat meal, not like on a regular basis, will signal to your body like, hey, keep an eye out for glucose, so your muscles will absorb more of the glucose, things like that. But bottom line is, again, you have to know that like when you see sugar, like first sugar turns into glucose. Um, it might be sometimes sucrose, and again sucrose breaks down to fructose and sucrose, but again fructose specifically, and then again becomes more of an issue when you have that high fructose corn syrup. Because just like a little bit of corn fructose syrup is like, more fructose than you're getting in a basket of fruits. So again, just imagine like, the effect that has on your liver, who's having to like the only place where that can go, okay, versus the glucose, which you can store in all your muscles. So, it's not only just thinking about sort of like where whether you have carbs and sugar in your diet, but where those carbs and sugar in your diet versus like again, you can get carbs that are from fiber. Fibers aren't sugars. And fibers generally will slow down the digestion process because it's harder for your body to digest, and they'll actually dampen the insulin spike as well. So sometimes when you combine things with like a lot of fibers, like inulin from like artichoke, things like that, you can also reduce, so like let's say you decide one day you are going to have a nice big side of rice, there are things you can do to make it a little less problematic than if you just had a big bowl of white rice. You could one substitute for a healthier rice. Like, I mean, brown rice is a little healthier. If you want to go even a little bit better, red or black rice, wild rice are going to even have a lower glycemic index, so less of an insulin spike, and a little bit more fiber. And again, that fiber is going to help offset that as well, provide other benefits and feed your microbiome, which is also good. But also you might put some artichoke on the side. So, have artichoke with your rice or have some other sort of like very heavy fiber thing. So that way, helps just kind of process that a little bit more evenly. But at the end of the day, like you don't want to overeat. And I don't like eating small meals. So, which is good. So this is why we're like eating 2 or 1 meal a day, ideally 2 meals, because 1 meal a day is really kind of hard to get enough nutrients in 1 meal. And it can be pretty torturous if you're forcing yourself to eat like maintenance in 1 meal. So like 2 meals a day, without snacking in between, really can provide you a lot of benefit because again, the no snacking gives you time for your insulin levels to go down. You can go burn some fat again. And then again, 2 meals, you can still have really nice sizable meals without necessarily going way beyond maintenance, especially if you try to practice like say, reasonable alternatives to like a lot of things that people just kind of gorge on nowadays, which are more expensive, but oftentimes buying the more expensive foods also reduces your portion size. So you try to make that like if you buy like a 14-ounce thing of like black rice, you're not going to be in a rush to just make these giant bowls of rice. You make a little bit of rice, you eat it, but also as you kind of make more well-balanced meals, you'll naturally like want to eat less because you'll be more satiated. And if you're keto, you'll generally just like not be hungry because especially if you still have like a lot of fat stores that you're burning through, your body's just kind of knows where it's going to get its energy from. So it's it's not creating all that ghrelin that's making you feel hungry. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. A little bit, just like knowing a little bit more about like sugar and fruits. So do eat fruits. If you're not on keto, if you're on keto, then yeah, you're probably laying down on the fruits, except for like the raspberries and the berries in general. And again, you shouldn't be on any like again keto, carnivore. Not you should shake up your diet once in a while. So like you're doing keto 1 month, and do another month where you're not doing keto, but you just but still practice like healthy food choices. So again, like the black rice instead of the white rice, the adding some artichokes as your sides and things like that will go a long way. But with that, I'll see y'all later. Have a great day and enjoy.